Hi everyone, my name is Ava. I am one of the current graduate assistants for professional school advising through the Career Center here at A&M. And today I wanted to talk about the medical school application timeline, just to give you an overview of TMD SAS and AMCAS timelines. So TMD SAS is the application service for most Texas schools except for TCU, and AMCAS is for other schools out of Texas. So first, you want to plan when you want to apply. So you will apply to medical school the year before you want to attend. So for example, if you are wanting to start medical school in 2028, which a lot of medical schools will start in kind of July time, then you would apply for medical school in the summer before that, in summer of 2027. So this is a pretty long timeline here. You want to plan that in advance. If you're graduating in 4 years and you do not want to take a gap year, then you would plan to apply at the end of your junior year. That way, you get your acceptance hopefully in your senior year. And then after your senior year, once you graduate, you have a couple months off, and then you start medical school in July. And also, just a side note here, gap years are completely normal. So if it's not sounding really feasible to apply at the end of your junior year, do not worry about that. Gap years can give you more time to strengthen your application. So they're not bad at all. They're very, very common. In fact, at most medical schools, I would say the average matriculant age is not usually 21 or 22. It's closer to around 24, meaning more and more people are taking a little bit of extra time after their graduation to, apply and get everything ready for all of that. So don't rush into it. And ultimately, you want to create a timeline that will work for you. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. Just consider yourself. Consider all your prereqs, your activities, your MCAT, your GPA, all of that. It's all about your story. It's not about comparing to somebody else. So, what you're going to need, prereqs, similar at most med schools. So, especially if you're a science major, they should all be covered. And, if you're thinking about applying to medical school and you're thinking about actually like getting ready to sit down and do the applications, you should already be familiar with that. But check program requirements for schools that you do intend to apply to just to make sure that you have everything checked off there. And for GPA, most programs, for sure in Texas, have a minimum of a 3.0 overall GPA. Some mention that they also want a 3.0 science GPA, while some do not. But for sure, typically in most schools, to even have your application considered, you do need to get around a 3.0. But of course, that is at the very low kind of end of the spectrum there. I would say that for most schools, the average GPA is above a 3.7, and that can vary based on the school. So you want to have as good of a GPA as you can and a GPA that you feel confident with applying with. Another really important part of the application is your MCAT score. The average score for MD program matriculants is around a 512. So that means people with lower than that get accepted to medical school, and people with higher than that get accepted to medical school. Um, and also consider that although the MCAT is very important, if you have a super duper strong GPA, if you have a 4.0, a little bit of a lower MCAT, might not look as bad. Whereas if you have a really low GPA, but you have a really, really high MCAT score, that might help balance it out too. So GPA and MCAT tend to go hand in hand, and those are typically the first things that medical schools are looking at. So you want to make sure that whatever you're applying with, you feel confident with, and you feel good about your GPA and your MCAT score combined there. On the applications, there are essays that you have to do. The really big one that you're gonna have to do for any kind of medical school you apply to is your personal statement. That can vary on length based on the program you're applying with, but essentially medical schools want to understand here your path towards medicine, why you want to pursue medicine. So this is a great time to reflect on your activities you've done. It's not really a place to sit there and, type out a resume by any means, but it's a really good place to tell your story. On TMD SAS, there are a couple of other essays. There is the personal characteristics essay and unique experiences essay. So if you're wondering more about those, you can just do a quick Google, and TMD SAS has a great application guide that can kind of just guide you towards what they're looking for here. I will say that the unique experiences essay is optional. You do not have to do that one, but the personal characteristics one is required. And also for activities, um, there's lots of activities you need for medical school. I'll say the big three are clinical hours, volunteering, and leadership. Research is also one that tends to be important, but its importance kind of varies per program, and there's a lot more. We do have another video on activities if you're wondering more about that. And then letters of recommendation. Most programs require three letters of recommendation, and they usually want two to be from professors that have taught you, at least one science professor. But again, look into what programs are requiring. I know for DO programs, often they want that third letter to be from a DO physician, and other schools will maybe want four or five letters. So you need to understand where you're applying to, understand their requirements, and plan accordingly. So here's kind of a walkthrough of the different application services. First, we have TMD SAS. That stands for Texas Medical and Dental School Application Service. And you apply through TMD SAS if you are applying to Texas MD and DO programs, except for TCU Burnett School of Medicine. TCU utilizes AMCAS, which is through the AAMC. But for TMD SAS, access opens early May, which means that you can go in, you can't submit yet, but you can go in and type everything out and have everything ready to go. And submission opens mid-May this year, 2026. It opened on May 15th, and that's when you could literally go in and click submit. And interviews start around July and typically end in January. And, if you're getting interviewed in July, it's usually going to be later July, and that's for people who submitted probably right when it opened. Also consider that medical schools do utilize rolling admissions, so it's in your best interest to submit your application, and this goes for any of these. Submit your application as early as possible. You do not want to sacrifice quality for timeliness by any means, but you want to submit the application as soon as possible with the best quality you can in that time. So just consider that too, that it is important to submit earlier. You can still get accepted in medical school and submit your application way later, but you're just lowering your chances. And in Texas, the first day, or actually for the whole country, I believe, the first day for MD acceptances is October 15th. So starting on October 15th, schools can start sending out their decisions. But Texas is very unique in that they utilize a kind of match system. So what that means is that you'll hopefully have lots of interviews at all these different Texas schools. And by late January, you will have to enter your ranking for each school that you did an interview at. And once you do that, they close off that time. I believe it's like one of the last days of January. And then they, run all of these numbers through their algorithm. They see your ranking, they see how schools have ranked their interviewees. And then they do have a match day in mid-February. It's often around Valentine's Day, which is really convenient. But on that day, you log into TMD SAS, and if you did interview at schools, then you can check there if you matched at any of them. And even if you only had one school, you still do need to rank it. But yeah, that day occurs in mid-February. So that is very unique. Other application services do not use a match system like that. They just kind of send out acceptances as they come. But that being said, you can receive pre-match offers, is what they're called in Texas, before this date, and you can receive acceptances after that as well. Just consider that the match day is typically when most Texas applicants do receive a decision. So next is AMCAS. Again, that is under the AAMC, and that is for all other USMD programs. And again, like I mentioned, TCU Burnett School of Medicine is in AMCAS as well. And the timeline is kind of similar to TMD SAS. Access opens early May, but submission opens late May. So it's like, I think this year it is the 28th is whenever the submission will actually open. So a little bit different timeline there slightly. What's nice is that TMD SAS and AMCAS are pretty similar. So once you have one done, you will have to do editing just to cut down like characters or to add characters, depending on if it's a personal statement or your activities. But you can kind of complete these both hand in hand. And I would encourage you to just make sure you know that the applications are not the same. You cannot literally just copy and paste. You will have to change some things around, but you can complete them in hand for sure. So interviews do occur typically from July through March. So it's a little bit wider of a timeline for the interviews just because they do not utilize the match system. So often schools will interview a little bit later into spring. And again, first day for MD acceptances is October 15th. So pretty much anytime after that, if you do apply through AMCAS, you can receive a decision from these medical schools. Again, they do not utilize the match system. So these decisions can be sent out pretty much anytime. And last is AACOMAS, which runs through the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine. So these are for USDO programs. So it's a whole different application service. The submission opens early May. They don't really have that timeline of just access and then submission. It kind of is all just in early May. And then interviews are conducted July through March, pretty similar to AMCAS, but they do not have a first day for DO acceptances to my knowledge. So it's really kind of just after your interview, you can receive a decision. And yeah, that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope this answered any questions you might have had about what to expect for the application timeline. Remember, there's lots to do on the application as well. Applications are tons of work. It's really, really important that you make your timeline, find out what's going to work for you. And just remember, don't rush. Medical school is always going to be there. So if you need to take another year to, strengthen your application, that is totally okay. And, here at OPSA, we are here to support you through that process. If you have any other questions, please contact us. This is our phone number, this is our email, and at any time you can check out our website for any 24/7 help. We have lots of great resources there. But other than that, I hope you have a great rest of your day and good luck on your journey towards medical school.